When it comes to practicing for a successful speech delivery, there are a few things that we should keep in mind. First, we have to ask ourselves, what is good delivery? And it's important to recognize that there really is no foolproof recipe for good delivery. It's all going to depend on the speaker and the situation and all of those sorts of things. And so it's really difficult to know ahead of time whether or not your delivery is going to be good or effective. But these are some things that we can keep in mind when we are practicing our speech's delivery. First and foremost, good delivery happens when we care about our topic. So we're going to present it well and present it conversationally, right? We've talked in the past about extemporaneous speaking, but we want to present our speech as though we're just kind of chatting with the audience about this cool thing that we know or this awesome thing that we want them to do. And speaking in a more conversational tone as though we're just speaking to friends is going to lead to better delivery because it's going to sound more natural to your audience's ear. In addition, we want to keep our eye contact in mind. We want to have visual contact with the audience throughout the course of our speech. And if we lack that eye contact, then our audience is less likely to trust us as speakers. So some tips that I have for eye contact include making sure that you don't put too much notes on your note cards in front of you, because if you have too many things written down on your note cards, that's where your eyes are going to go. Regardless of whether you know your speech topic or not, if you have too much information on your note cards in your head, you know that that information is there. So your eyes are going to go to your cards rather than being on your audience. And creating eye contact with your audience really makes your audience feel like you're speaking to them. And if you're spending too much time on your note cards, it makes your audience start to feel a little bit invisible or unimportant. So we want to have sustained eye contact with the audience. And this means that you are slowly glancing around the room and really creating connections with each person who is looking at you as an audience member. What I like to do is, as I'm speaking, I will think of my speech in my head with punctuation. And wherever there is a comma or a period or something of that nature in my speech, that's when I move to the next person. So I'll talk to one person for a little part of my speech, and then there's a comma sort of, so I move to the next person, and I talk to them for a few seconds, and then I move to the next person, and I talk to them for a few seconds, and I move to the next person, etc. And this stops you from sort of quickly glancing back and forth and having this really fleeting eye contact, right? You really want to make those distinct connections with the audience. Now, this eye contact can be one of the most nerve-wracking parts of public speaking. In fact, this is what a lot of people dread the most, is making eye contact with the audience. So if you're one of those people and you are absolutely terrified to stare into the depths of someone's soul, you can fake the eye contact just a little bit by either looking between their eyes, sort of like in between their eyebrows, or at their ear, and your audience won't be able to tell the difference. So fake it till you make it, really, is what it comes down to. And your audience will feel like you are making those connections. And it will also help you to become more comfortable in eventually making those full connections with the audience. So we don't want our eyes to be moving quickly back and forth across the audience and kind of scanning the tops of our heads. Instead, we want to be making those deep connections with each person for different segments of the speech. In addition, we want to have an effective use of vocalics. And this includes paralanguage, volume, rate, pitch, and pauses. And all of this can be thought of under the term vocal variety, right? So vocalics, paralanguage, vocal variety, all of these kind of describe these things of volume, rate, pitch, and pauses. So when it comes to vocalics or paralanguage, we are talking about the way that your voice changes throughout the speech. We're talking about the vocal delivery of the speech. We're asking whether you're speaking loudly enough, whether you're enunciating clearly, those sorts of things. And so we want to make sure that we're using our paralanguage and our vocalics appropriately. For example, with volume. This describes the loudness or softness of a speaker's voice. And we need to speak loudly enough in order to be heard by everyone in the audience and to overcome any ambient noise like an air conditioner in the room or something like that. But we also don't want to talk too quietly because then our audience won't be able to hear what we're saying. So we want to find that sort of Goldilocks place, right? Where we're not too loud and we're not too soft, we're just right. You basically want your voice to just be reverberating off the back of the room. And practicing in the room that you're going to be speaking in is going to be your best bet to find the right volume. In addition, we want to make sure that we are speaking at the correct rate. So the rate is the speed at which you are speaking, and your rate should vary throughout your speech. It should kind of fluctuate naturally, but we want to make sure that we aren't speaking too slowly because it gets really hard to listen to after a while. And we start to kind of sound like Forrest Gump, right? So we want to make sure that we are speaking at a conversational rate. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're not talking too quickly, because if we're talking too quickly, then our audience isn't going to be able to understand what we're talking about, and they're not going to be able to do anything that we want to do, and they're not going to do what we want them to do for persuading and all of these different things. So we don't want to speak too quickly, but we also don't want to speak too slowly. Again, we have to find that kind of Goldilocks place. And rate is especially one of those things that novice public speakers tend to struggle with, because typically when people are nervous, they tend to talk a little bit more quickly than they normally would. So if in your practice sessions you realize that you are one of those people that talks too quickly, at the top of each of your note cards that you're using to help you deliver the speech, you can write in big bold letters right at the top, slow down, to remind yourself to watch your rate. In addition to volume and rate, we want to be aware of our pitch, which refers to the highness or lowness of our voice. And again, this should vary kind of naturally, especially if you are really passionate about your speech. The pitch should come kind of naturally, right? Because your voice is going to naturally fluctuate with your enthusiasm. So we want to make sure that we are not speaking monotone. That's the biggest thing when it comes to pitch. We want to make sure that we aren't just droning on and on and on about our speech's topic, and we're just kind of talking about it at this one pitch, and it's so super exciting to talk about climate change because it's really going to affect all of us and anyone, right? So we want to make sure that our pitch is varied and that we are passionate about what we're talking about, because that's going to stop us from speaking in monotone. And when it comes to pitch, this also has to do with the emphasis that we put on specific words, right? All of this sort of paralanguage can change the actual meaning of a sentence that we are talking about, right? So for example, I could have the sentence, I never said she stole my money. And based on the emphasis that I put on different words in this sentence, based on my volume and my pitch and things like that, this sentence changes meaning just based on my vocalics alone. I never said she stole my money. 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 Powerful, right? Each of those, 7 examples that I just said, it was the same 7 words. I just put a different emphasis each time so that my pitch was slightly different and the meaning completely changed, right? I never said she stole my money implies that I never said it. Maybe someone else did. Whereas I never said she stole my money implies that she stole something else of mine, right? So Vocalics is this really powerful tool when it comes to public speaking. And we want to make sure that we have a good vocal variety so that our audience stays interested in what we're saying throughout the course of our speech.